Welcome to another episode of the Impossible Life Podcast. I'm your co-host, Nick Surface, and I'm looking across at a man who recently had his eyesight checked, and the results came back as X-ray. That's right, friends, the former Navy SEAL. Garrett Unkelbach, a man who can see the future and gaze into your soul.
That's good. I thought you were going to go.
Thank you.
When you started that one, I thought you were going to go laser, so I was a little surprised by X-ray.
Yeah, well, I like to keep you on your toes, and I think I've said you have freaking lasers for eyes. It's like at some point, and this is probably never going to happen, but like I envision a compilation of my intros because I've forgotten. I have them all written down, but there's definitely a lot that I've forgotten because I'll have people be like, "Oh, you did this intro," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot that one." So
you're the guy that's like, I've forgotten more jokes than you've ever told.
I will definitely not be that guy, but maybe it's true. Anyways, all right. So today, man. So I'm excited to talk about today how to expand your vision, because vision is man. I will say that I don't think it's something. I think everybody has an idea of what they think vision is, and when you actually can capture how powerful vision is, it is like a life changing. I don't know whether to call. Yeah, I think I would call it a skill. It's like a life changing skill and force to grab hold of. It's a force.
When the Navy put me through rally racing school, they showed us and taught us, and this is like in driving fast cars down dangerous roads, AKA life.
Yeah.
They showed us how important it is. Like they taught us, like, your eyes drive the car.
Right.
Where you look is where you're going to go. And so vision is so important because this, it's figurative or metaphorical vision, not just what you can see with your eyes, but what you see with your life.
Right.
What you see is telling you where you're going to go. When I went through Hell Week, really interesting. I mean, it was just poetic timing. The day that we showed up to San Diego, to Coronado, we're driving on base. So, like, my story getting to the Navy, you go to boot camp, which is in Chicago, which is so strange for the Navy.
Yeah,
like,
it really is.
You'd think boot camp would be like Florida or San Diego.
Chicago's known for its great oceans, so it makes sense.
Right, Navy boot camp, Chicago. You do pre-buds out there, another 8 weeks of like athletic training, preparing for SEAL training. And so after that, you fly to San Diego, and I'm driving onto this is like nervous. This is anxious.
I can imagine.
You're driving onto the SEAL compound for the first time in a bus. They pick up my whole class at the airport. We're driving on in a bus. And as we're driving on to base, driving to the Buds compound to go check out, we see a class that had just finished Hell Week. Right? These guys were we all know the process, right? They were on walk week. The week after Hell Week is for all of Buds, you have to run. Like, literally, you run everywhere. You're not allowed to walk as a Bud student. You have to run at all times. Think about that. With that, if you want to lose some weight,
just run everywhere.
Walking is secured.
Yeah,
there's no walking.
Yeah.
But we see this class that's walking, and so you automatically know these guys are on walk week, which is the week after Hell Week. And that's also the timing for the classes. The next class shows up at that time. But we just happened to, as we're driving onto base, see this class walking. But they were not a bunch of students walking. These guys are on crutches. These guys had broken ribs. Their faces are all swollen. They look like the bus we were on drove over them, reversed back over them, and then sped off like they were in trouble and ran them over a third time. Like, that's what this class of students looked like. And the instant thought in my mind was, I'm going to finish Hell Week, but I won't look like that. And I just continued to develop this picture, which, if you know my story, turned into later on right before we started Hell Week, I told my classmates, or the guys in my boat crew, that I'm going to finish Hell Week, but on Saturday, when everyone goes to med checks and they're on crutches and they're chafed and, their head is swollen, I'm going to go for a run on the beach by myself. I had determined not just that I would finish, but what I would look like when I finish. And I had this very clear picture of completion.
Yeah. And that clarity is, I think, one of the underrated parts of vision. How much did you think about that when you were in Hell Week?
Oh, it was every time that we were going through like really difficult stuff, this vision reminded me of, this is where I'm going.
Right.
So I had to act in accordance with that. Right. You've heard me talk about, my dad would say to me all the time growing up, I wish I had a camera so you could see yourself right now. And all these things go together. One of the things they say in the SEAL teams is rule number 1 is look cool at all times.
Right.
And that's not like a vanity, arrogant statement. Like, if you don't look like a Navy SEAL, you're probably not being a very good one.
Right.
Right. Like, you can go take a picture of, and I'm not hating on any branch of service. So go take a picture of insert any branch of services, general infantry, or general security, what they look like holding security versus what Navy SEALs look like holding security. Holding security is like posting up in a perimeter or being in an alert position. And Navy SEALs look a little bit cooler when they do it. Why? Because they're just trying to look cool? No, because they're very aware of every little detail about the things that they do. When I was getting beat down, when we were going through push-ups, when we were going through rock portage, all of these events, I'm thinking about, I'm not just going to finish, but I'm going to finish well.
Yeah. How many people, I really, man, what a great intro. Because I really hope a lot of people grasp this. My mind immediately went to something Garrett has said to me, and he says it to the men in Mighty Men from time to time when we're doing push-ups. So every Saturday morning, if you don't know, we do Mighty Men, and Garrett leads us through push-ups, and they're command push-ups. And I will tell you, I've gotten to do the command push-ups a few times. When you're the one giving the command,
40 command push-ups is equal to like 65 on your own push-ups.
That's what I was going to say. It's so much easier when you're giving the command as opposed to receiving it. So like I'll hang out at the bottom. Sure, we can hang out here, burn out our pecs. I'm like, I feel great. And I'll have guys after us be like, oh, dude, take it easy on us. And I'm like, I didn't think that was hard. So G puts us through this all the time. And so what happens, sure enough, and Garrett knows how to mess with people's heads. He'll have us hang out at the bottom. So you're at the bottom holding off the ground, which is going to burn your shoulders and pecs out. Then he'll bring us up and he'll do a few of those and then he'll crank up the pace. And we could be at like 15 at that point, and you can already see guys out there going, oh my gosh, he's going to, like, they're already kind of mentally falling apart. So you start hearing noises.
Especially the guys who are new,
right?
Because they're not familiar with the unknown distance run.
Exactly. And so like the rest of us, well, if you've been around Garrett or you know him or you've done this a few times, you're like, we're just going to go. And every once in a while you surprise us as well. I think about some specific examples which don't need to be shared. But what happens is you start hearing guys go like, they start making like these.
And that's where my insert pops.
Right.
I wish you could see yourself right now.
Yeah. And
I wish you could hear yourself right now.
Right. And
because you don't sound strong.
Right. And that's exactly it. And Garrett will say, no girly noises. Like, AK, buck up. Like if you're gonna suffer, at least suffer and like keep something about you, have a vision for who you are and who you want to be, that you're not gonna sit there and be like, oh, and like start letting all your weakness out. And you may think like, oh, that's weird or that sounds harsh. But it's having that understanding of like, no, I still have, there's a way I want to appear at all times, and having a resoluteness about who you are and how you show up in those things. I'm telling you, it's powerful. If you think what I'm saying sounds ridiculous, it's because you haven't grasped this and you haven't experienced it. When you experience what it is to be in a really difficult moment, to remind yourself, hang on a minute, this isn't how I want to show up, and you can instantly change, man, that is so powerful. And so I would say, like, as we get into vision, understand what Garrett just said. He went through what many would say is the most difficult week of military training and was able to come out on the other side of it in an uncommon way because he set himself a vision. And so it's not that you would necessarily be going through Hell Week yourself, although I know we will have some people who are tadpoles that listen to this, but like, you need to have a vision in your life. And I think people get so, like I said, everyone has a definition of vision. Some people, I think, get intimidated by it because they see a visionary like Elon, right? Sure. And they go like, well, I'm not him, or Walt Disney. I mean, there's a few like real visionaries, but we're not.
Yeah, Elon is a bicentennial man. People like him come along every 100 to 200 years. So maybe don't compare yourself.
Right, but what can you learn from him? So I think about, he recently did this vision of the future, and it was around autonomous driving.
Right.
And we're going to get into the definition of vision, but think about what he did. He basically used his resources to show people what could be of the future. And if you saw that launch, I mean, a lot of people were terrified because he had those AI robots like marching out, looking like something from like Terminator or iRobot or whatever insert movie.
Skynet.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, oh, so this is where we all celebrate.
This is the end of the world.
Yeah, this is where we celebrate our future rulers. Awesome. But what he also did was he said, what could a world with autonomous driving be? And I looked at this, I watched this thing multiple times, so I thought it was so amazing. He took really well-known places like aerial shots of LAX, which if you've flown out of LAX, you know what an absolute parking lot that place is and really that whole city is. And he took all these places.
Lindsay and I were just talking yesterday in random conversation about how terrible LA is.
Yeah, because it's awful. Like no matter what terminal you go to, you are fighting to get like your spot on the curb or whatever you got to do.
I saw this Instagram video of a guy like pretending to be an airport designer, like just throwing shade at the guy, like, who designed this?
Yeah, well, you got his inspiration from a Coke bottle, clearly. Anyways, but you look at this vision of the future, and what he did was he said, if a world of autonomous driving meant that cars were always in use, and he gave all these stats about how often they're parked, he's like, look what we could do. And he took all these famous parking lots, and he took like big sports stadiums, and instead of having a parking lot, they had a park. And like at LAX, instead of all the parking lots, they had once again like greenery. And I mean, and they showed the overlay. You see what it is, and then suddenly it kind of slow fades and changes into the new one, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And
imagine a world
exactly
without parking lots.
Right. And you sit there and go like, well, I've not thought about that, but actually, and you start to see it. And what does it do?
You see something that people haven't seen.
Exactly. And so what does it do? It stirs you. There's something about vision that moves you.
And you bring up a really great point, because when you have a strong vision, when you have a clear vision, there are people that will not like you for it.
Right.
There's people that'll disagree with you. There's people that will say that you're foolish, or that your ideas are foolish. The same way, I mean, I had people tell me my visions were foolish.
Yeah.
People think like you that's stupid. You can't, cars have to park somewhere. Where are the cars going to go?
Right. Yeah. People will not understand you. And what's hard is when it's people close to you.
Yeah.
You like to talk about Elon crying because of what Neil Armstrong said about landing people on the moon.
Yeah. Neil said that privatization of the Space Force is wrong.
Right.
Right. Like he said that the government should do this, and that was his hero.
Right. And you know what? I don't know Neil Armstrong or Elon, so I can't comment on that. But what I will say is when you get real clear vision in your life, it will alienate you from some people. There's no better. I don't know that I can say it in a nice way. Some people will, like you said, they'll not only not understand, they'll think that you're an idiot, and they'll throw their stones at you from a well-meaning place. A lot of times,
people can't see what you see.
Right. And so because they want to protect you or whatever.
Pastor Josh was just talking about that the other day in the story of Jesus's family.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Jesus's family, they were well intentioned.
Yep.
Like telling, hey, Jesus, like you can't be saying that stuff. You're gonna get in trouble. And Jesus in that moment basically like disowned his family and said, you don't know.
Yeah. He said, who are my mothers? Who are my brothers? Yeah. Those who do the will of God. And it's like, oh. Because they're like, Jesus, your mother and brothers are at the door. And he just immediately was like, hey, here's who my mother and brothers are.
Jesus had really clear identity and a really clear vision.
Yeah. I would say he had the clearest identity and vision of anyone who's ever walked the face of the earth. All right. So, G, we've said, what is vision then, man? Like, because we've given examples. What is it?
My friend Joe Musselman has a great definition of vision. Joe's episode 70.
I want to say it's like
68 or 70. It's somebody
like
somewhere in there. But my friend Joe Musselman, who I'm getting to spend a lot of time with recently, his definition of vision is it's the world that you wish to create. And really the way that I like to talk about vision, I tell a story, and I'm not going to tell it here, but I tell a story that it aligns with the Israelites going into the promised land. It's the question that I've had to answer in my life. It's the question you have to answer for your life, which is, what do you see?
Yeah.
Right? That's a reflection of your vision. Mm-hmm. When Joshua and Caleb looked at the promised land, they saw the land that God had for them.
Yeah.
When the other 10 spies looked at the promised land, they saw difficulty and challenge, and they didn't think that they could do it. They were looking at the same thing, but they saw something different. And the question of your life is, what do you see? What is the picture that you have for yourself that goes beyond your eyesight? Because all 12 spies, their eyes saw the same thing, but Joshua and Caleb saw something different vision. And so there's different things that feed into that vision as well.
Yeah, and that's so good. And really capture that, because you can have a vision that's not from God, and it can still be very powerful and can shape your life. My father-in-law, by the way, Joe Musselman's episode 67, I'll link to it, because he talks a lot about purpose and
story.
And story in
which
that.
are parallel to vision.
Yeah, because from a vision, you'll develop a story, but we're not going to get into that on this episode. But my father-in-law, who was also on the podcast, which is nice that people actually know who we're talking about. So Gwen said to me my favorite definition of vision, because for us as followers of Christ, this is what vision is for us. It's seeing the mind of God in the presence of God.
Right.
And you want to talk about getting a great vision for your life, start spending time with the one who wrote the story for your life, and you will begin to develop vision in areas and see things, and it'll create a desire in you from a place of God showing you. I mean, you think about like Joseph had a vision. That's one of your favorite stories. And look how it shaped his life.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people would say that dream and vision are interchangeable. They're similar. They're not quite interchangeable. But out of his dream, Joseph had a literal dream of his brothers bowing down to him. He had a vision of being a leader.
Yeah.
And so even in all the places that he wasn't, and this is why I love his story so much, when he was in the opposite of a leadership position, when he was a slave in Potiphar's house, he acted like a leader.
Right.
He acted like the one that everyone would bow down to, because he knew where he was going.
Yeah.
He said, the same way that I looked at, what any specific evolution in Bud's training, I was saying, how would the guy who goes for a run on Saturday after Hell Week, look in this situation? Joseph looked at his situation in slavery and said, how would the man that they're all going to bow down to act in this situation?
Yeah. What I love about that, man, is that I know that you think that way, and that I think there's a reason why you've always been drawn to Joseph's story, because like what you did in Hell Week and you continue to do in your life is very, I would say, parallel with that. Now,
it's a great underline of faith as well, which is vision requires faith, because you're believing that what you can't, what many people would define faith that way is believing beyond what you can see.
Yeah.
And vision is seeing
100%
beyond what you can see.
Very good.
And Joseph had no evidence in his life that everyone would bow down to him, but he could see it.
And similar to how faith is a gift from God, as we're told, like we all get a measure of faith as a gift from God, if you get into God's presence, that is where you will develop your vision. Right. Now, here's what I want to encourage people on. Is it takes reps to develop vision. It's like anything. If you could just sit down and be like, well, hey, what am I going to do with my life? What do I see for my life? Like, I mean, if you want to challenge yourself, ask yourself this: what do you see for your marriage or your family or your career? Literally pick any area of life. What do you see for your finances? Most people will be like a lot of people will ask the question, what do they want? And they're not very good at answering that. So when you say, what do you see? It's like, I don't know. I see that I owe.
I don't know.
This
I think
much.
we're going to go on vacation in a few months.
Yeah, and hopefully we have fun.
Yeah,
and so I want to encourage you. This takes repetition, and that's why I said that this is a concept that most people think they have an idea of, but they don't realize how powerful of a force this really is.
You need to really exercise your vision in this way. Like, you don't go from like, I don't have vision, to like, I can see the end of my life and I know how to bring it into being. Take something like a vacation that is 2 months away and say like, okay, here's what I want this vacation to be like.
Yeah, very good.
And also understand that vision is not control.
Right.
A lot of people try to like control and manufacture something to be a certain way. No, there's a great faith element that underlines your vision. But like, hey, this is the type of experience I want to have. This is what I want our time to be like. And you just control only the things that you can control and leave the rest up to God. And if you'll practice your vision in these short things, hey, this is who I'm going to be at work next week. Right. This is the way that I'm going to treat my fitness in this quarter, right? If you'll practice and exercise your vision in this way, you'll be able to see further and see further and see further. This is where I kind of, I relate a little bit of vision to kind of a lot of things come back to shooting for me. I think there's shooting is very it's physics based. There's a ton of physics that go into shooting, so I like to make some of the parallels there. And if you want to shoot like, people don't go to the range like on day. I've never shot a gun before. I'm going to shoot 1,200 yards today.
Yeah, that was my first day. Yeah.
Right, like even people who shoot guns like 400 yards seems like a long range to them, right? But if you get around the right people and you get some of the right training, shoot 1,200 yards, shoot 1,400 yards becomes very possible.
That's crazy.
But you don't go to the range the first day and just shoot that far. Like, hey, we're going to do like some basics and try to like, put a few bullets together on paper at 25 yards. But the more you practice, the more you get reps, you begin to be able to shoot further and further and further. And there's two things that are required to be able to shoot long range. And where I'm going to parallel these things is the two elements is identity and vision. We're not going to talk about identity today, but I'm going to bring this metaphor together, and we're going to use vision out of it. But if you want to shoot really far, you need two things, basically. You need a stable platform, and you need range. You need bullets that can go that far, and you need to be able to see that far. You can see far with your eyes. In buds, they teach us to shoot. I shot 600 yards iron sights.
Really?
Right. I shot a 50-gallon barrel at 600 yards with iron sights. You have to it's one of the final evolutions on the island in third phase.
Yeah.
Right. You run this nasty combat course where you swim in, you set explosives. It's like the final culmination of everything you've done in SEAL training. You swim in, you do an OTB, you do a change out, long range run, set explosives, moving and shooting, and then a long range shot at the end of this like difficult course, a 600-yard iron sight shot. But I say that to say you've got to have range. You've got to be able to see far, like with your eyes or telescopically with a scope, But you also have to have a stable platform.
Right.
If you don't have a stable platform, you may be able to see far, but you're not going to be able to hit anything.
Right.
And what I want to relate this back to is identity is the stable platform in your life, and vision is the range that you have. You need to have both of them to be extremely effective. So we're not going to get into identity today. We've talked a lot about identity, but even assuming the stable platform that you have, you've got to be able to see far. You need those long-range bullets. You need a long-range scope. And what many people have in their life is they don't have the range. They're not looking very far.
Right.
So I'm saying all of this to say I want you to practice your shooting, practice your vision, begin to look further and further down the road. For me, the story that we started with today, that was just a couple months, right? I got there, and 2 months later, I went through Hell Week.
Yeah.
Right. But so for that 2 months, I could see that vision.
Yeah.
Right. And it was a part of other things. I mean, there's, I would say, an unclear picture that's just becoming more and more clear in my life. But since I was about 13 years old, I've believed that there's a great plan for my life. Right. And I've been searching after that and seeking after that. So anyways, that's vision, how it works together with identity, and how you need to exercise your vision and continue to look further and further and know that there's faith to it, but you have the ability to see and bring things into pass.
Yeah, and really capture that, because Garrett said you should look at like that vacation or whatever. That is so powerful. People will all have done this and they won't have noticed it. Like, oh, I've got my wedding day coming up, or I've got X, and so I'm going to get in great shape for that thing, and they'll do it.
I don't want this to sound arrogant, but nothing in my life that I have right now has happened by accident.
Right.
The marriage that I have, I saw it.
Big time.
The way that Mighty Men is today, I saw it. Mm-hmm. The way that my business is operating today, I saw it. Mm-hmm. Right. These are things that I've been looking at and working towards for a long time.
Right. And the clearer that you get it, because like you can say, I'm going to get in good shape, and you get just better than what you are when you started. Or you can have like so clearly defined, like I'm going to have a 6-pack. I'm going to what a lot of people will do is they'll look at somebody else and go, I'm going to look like that. And they'll start building. I mean, Arnold, if you know his story, he would look at himself and be like, okay, I need to add a little bit to this delt. And he would literally look at himself like
building a statue.
That's exactly right. And he would just be like, okay, this is what I'm going to work on. And you might think that's crazy, but like if you can understand it in the physical, there's lots of non-physical, like you talked about, like your marriage, where you can start to go like, this is what it's going to look like. And when I say non-physical, I mean because it's like, okay, you can see your marriage like it's me and my wife, but to actually see how you interact and the harmonious and the connection and all those things, that's where the more you do this, the better you'll get. And here's what a lot of people have, is they have default vision. And what default vision is it ends up being like a blueprint for your life. And you'll hear people where they'll realize they've bumped into vision, or they're falling down on it, is they'll say, I just thought my life would look different, or I thought I'd be further along, or I thought, and it's like, well, where did you get that from? And for most people, it's usually because it's what they saw around them, right? They just became like what they saw around them. And so they thought that they would follow some blueprint, or maybe just a little bit better than what they saw around them. And then if they don't, they go, man, I thought it would be better. And it's like, well, how clear was that in your mind? Usually not very clear, because I mean, Proverbs 29:18 says, without vision, people cast off restraint. And so if you don't
or the people perish.
The people perish, right? Yeah, depending on what translation you look at. If you don't have a vision for your life, why wouldn't you go hook up with X person and drink this or ingest this? Like, why not? You just eat, drink, and be merry, because tomorrow you'll die, right? Like it's like, it sounds fun in the moment, so I'm going to do it. Whereas if you have an actual clear vision of what you want to become, those things seem like utter foolishness. If you're saying you want to be a fitness, like you want to be really in great shape, and someone's like, hey, let's go to the fast food buffet, that's an easy, I mean, and we laugh, but it's an easy choice. Yeah. But there's so many things in our life that we make decisions based on, like, will it be fun? Well, there's lots of things that are fun, but that doesn't mean that they're actually going to take you anywhere you want to go. So you're having fun all the way down to the bottom, and then you hit the bottom and you're like, man, what's my life? And that is default vision if you're not careful.
Most fun I've ever had is being partially miserable, but doing some of the most meaningful things in my life.
Yeah.
I love fun, but just like alcohol or many of the other vain pursuits, like humor can be empty as well.
Right.
And it's a lot funnier. Like to me, like one of the funniest moments is, like, you've heard me tell this story before. In the middle of Hell Week, my peanut butter and jelly gets washed out of my hands. This was like my tiny moment of joy. And I looked at my friend Matt next to me, and all I could do was laugh, because it was either laugh or cry and quit.
Right. Yeah, it's funny you say that because while you were saying that, I hadn't really thought about it. But every time we've done something difficult, I look back on it really fondly.
It's funny.
Yeah, which is odd because some of the worst pain I've had was, I would say, probably in the 100 mile.
You laugh at how terrible it was.
Yeah, but I actually think about it. I'm like, man, I would do that again tomorrow. What I wouldn't do is the training, but I would happily just go out there and suffer.
For sure.
But okay, so what we're hoping you get to, and we're gonna give you 3 ways to expand your vision. But what we hope you get is that you would have vision in every area of your life. Garrett and I actually do this at our Fast Track every year. Is we help people cast their goals for the year in line.
Fast Track. Tell them what the Fast Track is.
Sorry, yeah. Fast Track is what we've been doing the past couple of years. Is when we do the cold plunge, which we do on New Year's Day every year. We do a giant ice bath. We had over 150 people last year, which was an awesome experience. And then we would do a Fast Track afterwards where we would have, I think we limited it to 20 people would come in, and we literally take them through prioritization, goal setting, and vision for your life. So that, because everyone wants to have the best year of their life, we give you the actual framework of just saying, don't just say that and like charge out of the gate with a lot of good intentions and then fall down by February. Come out and have a very clear prioritization of your life, aka where you put your time and resource. Once you understand your priorities in line with your vision, you know what goals to set. Because the person who's like, setting goals like, I'm going to make $1 million this year. It's like, you make $50,000 this year right now. How are you going to get to $1 million? I'm just going to do it. That's my goal. Okay. Well, are you willing to sacrifice your family, any other time you have for spare pursuits, and pretty much everything else? Because that needs to be your absolute number one, where you give 70 to 80 hours a week. Are you ready to do that? Well, I can't do that.
When I teach people, one of my core beliefs, which is you can have anything you want as long as you're willing to pay the price for it.
Right.
It's a core belief. You must have it, I think, if you want to really succeed in life. But when I teach people that, I say, you all know that life's not fair, right? And so what does that mean? If life's not fair, that means some people have to pay more than others.
Right.
There's many things in my life that people could look at me and say, that's not fair.
Right.
Right? Why does he get that?
Yeah.
I got things that other people don't have. That's not up to me.
Yeah.
God is sovereign, not Garrett.
Right.
Thank the Lord. Right. And there's things in my life that have been not fair against me. But the point that I'm making is you can have anything you want as long as you're willing to pay the price for it. Some people, like Jacob, have to pay double price.
Right.
Some people have to pay triple price. And you can, if you want to go from $50,000 to $1 millionaire in a year, some people can. Some people do it in 3 months.
For sure.
And some people it takes them 7 years.
Yeah.
You can do it. You just have to be willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
And you don't always know what that price is. Jacob thought it was 7 years, but for him it was 14.
I would say you never know what the price is.
Yeah.
It's always more than what you think. But here's a little mindset shift if you don't like what Garrett said about it's not fair. It's not fair that you're born in America, if you're listening to this in America, in the most prosperous time in all of humanity. So there you go.
What I think America's like less. It's like 15% of the world population.
Right.
So,
yeah. So you lucked out.
Yeah.
And if you're outside of this, I'm sure you could look around and go, actually, regardless, you're in the most profitable time that's ever been for humankind on Earth.
Yeah.
So
your chances of dying of disease and starvation are at an all-time historical low.
Yeah. Which and you take it for granted, and that's how you know how unfair it is. But the point being is we're not plugging anything because obviously we're recording this in July, but I'm just telling you what we do, because the goal that we would love for every person, what will change your life, is when you have a vision for all 8 areas of your life, which is your spirituality, it's your marriage, it's your family, it's your friendships, it's your finance, it's your business, it's your rest, and it's your health. Those 8 areas, if you get vision in those, and even if it's not a great vision to start with and you get better, I'm telling you, man, it will change your life.
If you don't have vision in those areas, you'll end up sacrificing one for the things that you do have vision for.
Yeah, very good.
Right. I'll share this last point and then we'll move on. I was talking with one of my team members the other day, and he's younger than me, and at the beginning of starting his family, and he was just asking me for some thoughts around like how do you do it? How do you have a good family? And like he's like, I see you and your wife have a great relationship, you have kids, and you do all this stuff. Like, how does that work out? And I said I had a vision. I was telling him this. I said I know that I want to be like highly, highly successful. And I've looked at like people. Everyone has different definitions of success. And I'll just say this again. This may sound arrogant to people, but I want to go to the highest level. Yeah. Right. I want to play in the NBA, so to speak. Of all sports, NBA's lowest percentage. Right. I'm not a big basketball fan. It's not my favorite sport, but I do respect how hard it is to be in the NBA. And Garrett wants to play in the NBA. And so I know what I'm setting out to do when I say that. And when I've looked at people in business success that are NBA players, so to speak, I have found their family is one of two things. They have either mastered family. They have a beautiful, wonderful family that, despite the craziness that exists in this person's business life, they have a beautiful, wonderful family and it's well organized and they have great children. Or it's either that, or they are someone who has clearly left their family behind.
Right.
If they're not divorced, they are basically an absentee father, don't have a great relationship with their kids. Mm-hmm. Their wife despises them. There's some people who they grow to a level of success and they kind of cap out because they say like, well, to go any further in business, I'd sacrifice my family. And they're just kind of like, I've reached my max juggling capacity. I'm juggling 6 balls. I can't do 7. I'm plateaued in life.
Right.
And that's where some people get to. But to get to the very highest level, I've met people, been around them, looked at them. I saw people at the highest level. It's either or. They have mastered family. They have a beautiful, wonderful family, very well organized. They're just as successful in family as they are in business, or they completely left it behind.
Right.
And so I shared this thought process in this picture with my teammate of saying like, I decided what type of person I was going to be.
Right.
I want to be the successful person who has a beautiful, wonderful, well-organized family.
Yeah. Because I suppose we haven't said it this bluntly, but when you have a vision, you start to, like you said, you don't know the actual price, but you got a lot better idea of what the price is. And so you start to begin to pay what you know, and you discover what else needs to be paid. And that's the way it goes. All right, G, well, let's get into it. So 3 ways to expand your vision. What is way number 1?
3 ways to expand your vision. Number 1 is you got to see through eyes of faith. We've been talking about this, right? Like faith underlines vision. So let me give you some scripture here. Matthew chapter 6, verse 22 and 23. The eye, notice it says eye, not eyes. The eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Here's what the eye is. It says eye, not eyes. The eye is the lamp of the body. Jesus is not talking about eyes that see physical, but he's talking about what you perceive. Mm-hmm. He's talking about your vision. He's not saying what did your eyes see. He's saying what do you see?
Right.
What does your soul, what does your spirit, what do you as a man, what do you as a woman, what do you see with your life? I think it is one of the most important questions that is the answer of your life. And again, that's why I bring it back to the 12 spies. He sent them in to give a report. The report was not a reflection of what was there. The report was a reflection of who the spies were.
Yeah, big time.
So the vision that you have with your life, it has to be based on faith, right? This is why this verse says the eye is the lamp of the body. If the eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. If you want to have great vision with your life, you've got to see with eyes of faith. Mm-hmm. I've made some statements on this podcast that could make me look foolish. That's okay with me because here's what I know. Here's what I know. This is one of the strongest beliefs I have in my life is that God has a great plan for my life, right? And I'm not saying the story is about me, but I know God has a great plan. And whatever his plan is, even if it doesn't look like what I think, I'm going to act in alignment with this is a part of what I do every day. I honor God. I get on my knees before him. We'll come back to this in a second. And I say, God, I want your way because I know his plan is great. So all I've got to do is line up with that. And so when difficult things, negative things, bad things happen to me, say, you know what? This is a part of God's great plan. It's all going to work out for his best. And his best is a great plan for me. I want his plan in my life. So I can walk into difficult things. I can make bold statements. I can take big risks with faith, not with certainty that everything is going to work out for me, but with absolute certainty that God is sovereign.
Yeah, that's so good, G. And that, I mean, you talked about that earlier. There's an element of faith in every single piece of vision that you're going to have.
If you don't act that way, what I'm talking about, which kind of seems scary and dangerous, of like saying like, well, it doesn't have to be my plan, but I know God's plan is great and his plan is sovereign. If you don't act that way, you are actually playing against God.
Right.
And let me explain that to you. Because you're saying, I want my certainty.
Yeah.
God will never give you his certainty.
Exactly right.
He has certainty in his plan. And if you're saying, I have to have certainty, you are in opposition to God.
Yeah.
And how do you think that's going to go for you?
Yeah, not very well. But that's where people fall down all the time. And I'm so glad you highlight that. It's the how. Like we said, okay, so start to get a picture. And we said it already. You're not going to know the price. And the price is the how. Because we've talked about this. We've said this multiple times in this podcast. I think there's a lot higher percentage of people that if you said, here's the exact development pipeline. I mean, well, actually, we see it in sports. Everyone knows in sports that if you're really, really good, there is a chance for you to be famous and make lots of money, which is what everybody thinks they want. And so how many people enter the sports pipeline? Tons. How many people wash out? Tons. Right? But this
99.9%.
Yeah, I mean, it's a super high percentage. I mean, I was actually very impressed that you brought up that NBA part because I'm a sports guy on the podcast. And like, you're right. The NBA only has 2 rounds in their draft. Every other draft has way more rounds because there's a lot more guys.
Hey, there's 5 guys on the court.
Yeah, that too. And a squad of 12. So it's a very small percentage. But I think that's such a great point because so many people, they fall down on how, because it's like, well, at least with the NBA, I know if I'm really good at high school and really good at college, I got a chance. So like they can see it. That's their quote unquote certainty. Oh, you want to have a great family? Yeah. Well, I believe that I'm supposed to lead these people. I believe I'm supposed to do that. Okay. Well, how's that going to happen? Because that's what everybody wants to know. I don't know. Great. That's the eyes of faith. A lot of people
think like, oh man, if I was just 7 feet tall,
right?
There are thousands, if not tens of thousands, of 7 foot tall athletic people in the U.S. that you've never heard of.
For sure. I always think that when I meet somebody really tall, I'm like, I know you played basketball, but obviously you don't play it professionally, and now you've just got to be inconvenienced everywhere you go. Yeah. like if you're tall, I would be killing myself to make it pro, because otherwise you just got to wear jeans that don't fit and sit in seats that weren't made for you. Anyways, that was not really anything to do with vision, but it's just a thought. Let's go on to number 2, G.
Well, look, last thing on vision, just as a reminder, you have to see through eyes of faith. This is and hey, if you don't want to do that, your vision is very short-sighted.
Right.
Right. If you are only based upon what you can see in certainty, you have weak vision.
Yeah, very good.
Like I call it spiritual night vision. When you have like faith vision, because it gives you the ability to see in the dark.
Yeah.
Right. Like I spent a lot of my career in the military walking around in the dark, being able to see where others could not. And that's when you see through eyes of faith. It's like, you can't see, but I can. And that is a superpower.
Yeah. And I will say that when you start to have vision and eyes of faith, you'll instill it and encourage it in others. And you're a great example of that. You instill vision. As somebody who's close to you, you've definitely helped me in that. And from a practical sense, I know you spent a lot of time in the dark because I've been lectured by you on multiple adventures where you'll sit down with a group of us and be like, look, don't turn your flashlight on. If you flash that in my eyes, I'm going to hurt you because we have night vision and we can see everything. In the moment you ruin it.
There's actual NOD's night optical device, which is, it's a tool that gathers night vision, but also your eyes have night vision. We have these things called cones and rods in our eyes. And if you've, kept your eyes in the dark for a long time, they adapt. Before we had lights, people still lived before there was electricity. Shocker. And because your eyes will adjust at night.
But it's a point of awareness because we hiked. I'm thinking of our first mountain climb when we woke up at 1:30 in the morning. We walked by moonlight, which was incredible. I don't think I ever used my headlamp.
I said, guys, you don't need your lights. Turn them off. They're like, what?
Yeah. And that's exactly my point. That's why I want to say when you start to develop eyes of faith.
Give your eyes a few minutes.
Right.
And if you don't shine that white light in your eyes, because it takes, depending on the health of your eyes, anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half for your eyes to get to full night perception.
Yeah.
And so you want, if you look at your phone, you look at a white light, you've just ruined that.
Right.
Because you saw it when we're on that walk. It's like, hey, I can actually see pretty good. If the moon's out, you can see just fine at night.
Not only could I see, I could see better. Because I've done headlamps. Headlamps are really convenient, but you can only see a few feet
in front of you.
You
can see really clearly in one spot, but you can't see everything else.
Whenever we had them off, I was like, dude, I can see into the forest and see all. I mean, it was actually an incredible thing to experience. But I think that's a natural, supernatural correlation of what it is to develop this.
Seeing with eyes of faith is spiritual night vision.
Boom. There we go. Let's go climb a mountain, G.
Okay, number 2. This is not a complete list. This is just, 3 things that'll help develop your vision. Number 2, walk with wise men. And you also need, and this is a reference to scripture, but I'm going to give the second part because a lot of my points have a slash. Yeah. And then walk with wise men / alignments. And alignments in this context, if you are a Mindset Mastery member and you really know the principles that we teach and you understand this stuff, this makes a little bit more sense to you. Constant plug for Mindset Mastery. You need to go through our program and really pick up some of the, it's one thing for me to talk to you about shooting. It's another thing for me to get on the range with you.
Right.
And Mindset Mastery is an opportunity for me mentally to get on the range with you.
Well, and physically, because we have 2 live calls where you can ask Garrett or myself any question you want.
Right. Proverbs 13:20. If you walk with my wise men, then you're going to become wise.
Yep.
Now, some scripture, like you got to kind of like dig through it
Right.
and think about it to understand it. This one's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Walk with wise men, then you're going to become wise. What you need around you, so this is the alignments part. Wise men can see, right? And that's what wisdom is. Like, people come to me for wisdom, but why are they asking me questions? Why are they asking for wisdom? Because they don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
But what do I do in this situation? What's going to happen in this situation? Wisdom has the answer.
Yeah.
Wisdom is knowing what's going to happen. Why? Because you have principles. You have an understanding of the universe that God has created. Principles govern outcomes. It's like it's like going thousands of years back or going to some lost village in the rainforest, and you can do math and no one's ever heard of math.
Right.
That's what wisdom is like.
Yeah.
Like, I can do the calculations. I can tell you like, how do you know? Well, math.
Right.
Like, what is math? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. If you've never heard of math. That's what principles is like. It's like, oh, look, I understand the formula. I know the calculations. If you'll hang out with wise men, you'll pick up some of these principles and you'll begin to understand. Like, principles shows you things that's different than vision.
Right.
Okay. Vision requires faith. Principles require zero faith. I don't need faith for principles.
No.
I don't need faith for gravity to work.
Right.
Right. But so these things overlap. And if you'll get principles, what it'll allow you to do is enhance where your vision goes. Like, some people are trying to use because you don't have an understanding of principles, they're trying to have vision for things that principles will tell you the answer to.
100%.
And so when I've eliminated all the things that principles can tell me the answer to, it's really clear the few things that I do actually need faith for. I try to have as much faith as possible, but I don't feel like I have infinite measure of faith.
That's good.
So I don't want to use it incorrectly. I don't want to use faith. Here's what'll mess you up is when you're using faith for something that if you knew principles, you'd know it would never work.
Right.
And I see this happen to people all the time.
That's good.
Right. They're trusting in God for gravity to stop working.
Right.
And God's not going to do that.
Yeah, because he's the one who made it.
Right. God stopped the sun in the sky one time in the Bible.
Right.
He's not going to do it all the time.
Right.
Right. God's not going to overturn gravity for you, most likely. And so if you're trying to use faith for something that principles has already told you won't happen, you're probably going to get busted and learn a lesson on your faith. God wants you to know principles just as much as he wants you to have faith. So what'll expand your vision is walking with wise men, pick up these principles, understand how the universe works, but then also here's the /alignments portion, because there's really two things that come from being around these types of people. One, it's that understanding of principles, but two, you want to walk with people that are going in the same direction as you.
Yeah.
You want to be like, this is what Mighty Men is, right? We have a shared collective vision of like, man, this is what a godly man should look like. And we're all trying to walk it out together. Part of the reason I wanted this is because I knew I would go further in what a godly man is supposed to be with a bunch of other men than if I just said, this is the Garrett journey and Garrett's going to go figure it out for himself. No, I said I need other men to do this with me. I can't do this by myself. I need other men who believe in this, who see this. This is like when you go hunting. Okay, lots of masculinity analogies today.
What else are we going to get?
Night vision, guns, hunting.
Yeah. If we ever talk about purse shopping, just turn it off.
So my dad and I, since I was 5 years old, have hunted together.
Yeah.
This is a funny story. We've hunted together since I was 5 years old. Like a lot of, men grow up with teach their kids to hunt. And as soon as their son's, like 13, 14, 15, he can hunt. And someone you go hunt, right? Because I don't need you trying to kill the stuff that I want to kill. Right? You go hunt over there, I'll hunt over here. Well, me and my dad have always hunted together. Because for us, the most important part of hunting was us getting to be together.
Yeah.
We also love hunting.
Yeah.
But I love hunting with my dad way more than I love hunting.
Yeah.
And so we always hunt together. And my dad and I's collective kill rate is higher than we hunt with a bunch of other experienced hunters on this really nice lease and in the panhandle of Texas. 17,000 acres, this huge swath of land to hunt whitetail and mule deer. And me and my dad we hunt together. So you would think less chance, less opportunity, two people, one location. Our collective kill rate on trophy animals is higher than the guys who hunt by themselves. You would think we're half of the percent, half the chance of kill.
Right.
Or you got two people hunting, only one person can kill. Well, the two of us have been more successful than these guys have by themselves. And they used to make fun of it and say it was silly and even complain. and they've started like, they're not father and son, they're just friends, and these guys have started pairing up.
That's cool, yeah.
Because they're like, man, we're actually more effective when we work together in this. And alignment and vision works the same way in your life. You want some people around you that see the same things as you.
Yeah.
Because when I see animals my dad doesn't see, and vice versa. He sees things that I don't see. We're more effective hunting together.
Yeah. And if you're a person that's like you're listening to this, and I think there's a lot of people around the country and the world that will be going, man, I want that. Like, I would just encourage you, do whatever it takes to get that. If you have to pay for a coach, or if you have to pay to be a part of something, just get around those people, because what you pick up from them will be way more valuable than whatever it costs you to pay. If you're not in a place, like I was sat yesterday in a Mighty Men group, G, and there was this guy who was this first timer, and I really enjoyed it, because when someone comes to Mighty Men for the first time, I kick off every week, and I always ask guys who's grateful to be here. And I do that on purpose, because I'm still grateful for Mighty Men the same way I was when I first discovered it, because I don't want to ever lose that appreciation. So this guy, when you see a first timer, it reminds you why you should be so grateful. So he sits in the circle and he's listening to everybody talk, and I can see him getting like, kind of like, he's like, wow. And so he goes, hey, real quick, he's like, who here owns a business? And I was in a group of like 15. Every guy put his hand up, and he's like, I can't believe this. He literally says this out loud. He goes, I've never been in a group of, in a circle like this in my life. And I just said to him, I said, most people haven't. I was like, and that's one of the things that makes this place so special. Not because we're a business consultancy group, but because the type of person that's like running in the same direction is finding that. And I was sitting with Clayton, and Clayton's obviously attracted those men and done a very good job with that. But like, it's rare. But when you get in that group, you kind of go, okay, here's my people. And like, you realize how much better it gets. And so I now in my own life cultivate very intentional rooms of people for that exact thing to happen, because I know how powerful it is. And the amount of times somebody will share a problem and somebody else is like, hey, I'll text you afterwards, because actually I know what you should do. What a gift that is, man, to not have to figure it all out on your own.
This is the purpose of the Napoleon Hill Carnegie Mastermind Inception.
Yeah.
Why I need, like, Carnegie was in a place of like, man, I'm a titan of industry in the world, and I don't have anybody I can talk to.
Right.
And I'd like to talk to some people.
Yeah.
And so, well, let's get Henry Ford. Let's get some other titans of industry in the same room, and I can talk to some people who are going in the same direction as me, who see what I see, but might also see some things I don't see.
Yeah. So good, man. I think we could go on and on, and we've done podcasts on alignments, so you can look that up.
Join us in Mindset Mastery. I'm not going to sit here and panhandle our program. Sometimes people say it's expensive. And depending on where you're at financially, you may consider it expensive, but I would tell you for every single person that it's worth it. I have been where people have been. If you make $40,000 or $50,000 a year, our program's really expensive for you. Mm-hmm. And I have been in that situation and paid what our program costs, and I can tell you that it's worth it. You have to invest in yourself, and you have to see further than where you're at.
Exactly.
And not just sit. A lot of people look at stuff like this and say, well, what am I going to get? And you know what? How am I going to get my money back? And you've got to see the value in yourself. If you don't see greatness for yourself, you probably shouldn't purchase this program, because it'll just be some group class that you went through that made you feel good. But if you see greatness for yourself, and you know that maybe there's just one more thing that I'm missing, maybe if I just had a little bit better understanding of principles, maybe if I just had some wise men around me, it's going to lift the entire lid on my life. You need to join us in that program.
Yeah. By the way, this podcast that you're listening to is because somebody paid a price to level themselves up that was expensive, and I'm not patting myself on the back, but that was me. This podcast starts, so I paid you to coach me. It was not cheap for me, and I didn't know what the ROI was. I just knew I needed it. I had no idea it would literally change my life, and that we would be where we're at here 4+ years later. But you know what? I knew there was something more for me, and I knew I needed to be around you. So praise God. Thank you, Lord, for directing me. What's number 3, G?
Number 3, daily transformation. And let me get into this. I'm going to give you the scripture first. Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Those of you in Mighty Men get to hear this all the time. Do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. Transformation is a death to self and a resurrection. And here's what this looks like practically in my life. Every morning I get on my knees before the Lord and I say, God, not my way, but your way, right? I ask God, I pray and ask the Lord to forgive me of my sins. Because you know what? It's not always intentional, but I sin every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're not even aware of the things that you've said and you've done because we are so sinful.
Yeah.
Say, God, forgive me of my sins. Cleanse me in your righteousness. Let your ways be my ways. Less of me and more of you. And I ask God for this every single day. Because I have a lot of hunger in my life, and I hope for people that listen to this podcast that you have a great amount of hunger.
Yeah,
I was got the privilege yesterday to be on stage with Les Brown. I spoke right before him. Got to spend a lot of time talking in the back, and his whole talk yesterday was about hunger. Right, like you've got to have hunger. And it's one of the things that I have a great deal of, and it's what I want for every single person in this podcast, that you would have a great hunger for your greatness, for your destiny, for everything that God has for you. But with that hunger, right, like what all of the worst things that can happen in your life, they come from poor appetites.
right.
Becoming obese, a poor appetite.
Right.
Greed is the wrong type of appetite. Lust, the wrong type of appetite. Right. So you need to have hunger, but you got to have hunger for the right things. Right. You've got a hunger for the Lord. You got a hunger for his ways. Those who thirst and hunger for righteousness will be filled. You need to have hunger, but you need to have hunger for the right things. And I have a lot of hunger in my life. And every day I pray and say, God, remove the wrong hungers from me. I'm not asking God to remove my hunger. I'm asking God to remove my sin, to remove my wrong way of doing things. Because I know the hunger that I have for greatness in my life could very easily turn into the worst qualities. I always tell people, people put me on a pedestal and they, well, Garrett's this way, Garrett's that. And I just tell people, I wish you could see who I could have been. Because I've seen the roads that I could have walked down, and they're terrible and depressing and disappointing. And so I've chosen for myself, I don't want to go down those roads. And I know the only way that I don't go down those roads is a constant renewal with the Lord. It's daily transformation. I've got to let these things die that keep popping up in my life and continue to let God transform me. And I won't get into it in depth, but in Mindset Mastery, we talk about focus as it relates to vision. And one of the things that amplifies your vision, that amplifies your focus, is the lens. Right? If you think about a laser, like a dirty laser on a lens messes up the laser. The crystal lens on a laser, or other lasers have different types of lenses, has to be perfectly clear. And that's my spirit, right? I've got to have a clean heart. I've got to have a clear spirit before the Lord, or it's going to weaken my vision, right? That's a laser is light that's extremely focused. But if you get it dirty, it can't do its job. And I've got to have laser focused vision in my life. But if my lens is dirty, if my spirit is impure, if I'm letting the wrong things get into my life, my vision is going to be weak and ineffective. So don't have a dirty lens. That's the daily transformation portion.
Very good. Yeah, what you focus on really determines your hunger, is what you're saying. And it's so true, because I think when we say this, it's very easy to understand. When Garrett's talking about daily transformation, it would make sense that you are the only consistent ingredient in every area of your life. So like, if a bunch of stuff in your life is not how you want it, you, at some point you have to go like, what's the consistent?
Well, what's the common denominator here?
Yeah, it's you. And so and that may hurt, but I will tell you that on the other side of hurt is great growth. And I'm speaking from experience.
As some Pop's wisdom for you, we need a Pop's sound bite.
We do. Yeah.
But Pop says, if the shoe fits, wear it.
Yeah.
If you're on your fourth marriage, I hate to say this to you, but you've been a common denominator in each one of those marriages.
For sure.
And I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm saying you've missed some principles.
Yeah.
You've had an unclear picture of who you are. There's some inconsistency in your life. There's some things that you haven't seen about yourself yet. And you can take that as a personal attack, or you can say, like, the only thing standing between me and my success is personal growth.
Yeah.
Right. And if you'll have the attitude of, this is where my dad would say stuff to me. He's like, you know what? You're making a lot of really good defense. Like, my dad would correct me.
Right.
He says, like, all your points are really valid, but what I said is still true.
Yeah. And thank God for a guy like your dad.
Yeah.
You talk about walk with the wise and you'll become wise. That's one of the things that wise people will do, is they'll show you areas that you've just been repeatedly missing it. And like I said, it hurts, but man, it is the greatest gift that you could have, is somebody that will say things. I mean, Garrett has been probably the biggest wise corrector in my life, of saying, dude, you're doing this. Why don't you try this? What about this? And just highlighted so many things that didn't feel great, but man, I look at the growth and I'm like, thank God.
So I hope what your takeaway from today on vision is, because we got into it and we taught you about it, but also there's so much more to learn on vision. And again, we get into some of that in mindset mastery. But what I hope that your takeaway from this today is that, one, I've got to have a foundation of faith in my life. Vision, like if you want to see great things in your life, it's going to be beyond what you can see with your eyes. And if all you can see is what you see with your eyes, if you stand on certainty, you won't see very far. But if you can look through eyes of faith and have spiritual night vision, begin to see what God sees in you and see with a foundation of who God says you are, that's where you will go far in life. That's where you will see things that other people haven't seen, and you'll be able to do things that other people cannot do.